Hi, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have back with me, oh my goodness, City Clerk Devon Reid has been on this show on Evanston Live TV. I think I've lost count. How many times you've been on? The door is always open to you, Clerk Reid, but welcome back once again, City Clerk Devon Reid.
Yes. I'm always happy to be here and speaking with you and the viewers of Evanston Live TV. I'm especially happy to be here. Now we are a few days away, we're a little over a week away from our February 23rd primary for the mayor's race, for the clerk's race, and fourth ward, and the ward that I'm running in, the eighth ward. And so very excited to be here.
Yes.
And also, I have to say, I think congratulations are in order to you. It's been receiving the Chamber of Commerce award. So congratulations
Thank you very much.
for community engagement and involvement. So
Thank you.
everything that you do here. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Devon, because at the start of Evanston Live TV, you were my first story that went viral throughout.
Second,
My second story? No, you were my.
Dr. Witherspoon
Oh,
spoke right after the Trump election, and so that was the first one. We were the
that was the
second.
first
Yeah.
one. You were my second one to go viral. So and that was at the start of your political career.
I wouldn't say it was started my. It started my campaign for city clerk here in Evanston.
For city clerk. You were wrongfully arrested, and I was like, okay, I have to go find this young man. And I met you at the Civic Center, and I was a little, I didn't know if you were going to talk to me. I was like, I know he's upset because you had just pretty much gotten out of jail. So, and I knew you were upset, you were passionate, and you had a lot to say. And I said, well, maybe he'll say it on camera. Let's see.
Yeah,
And
I just busted out of Birmingham and was ready. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my heart went out to you in that situation. So, but you won, victorious.
We got 66% of the vote. We ran a progressive campaign about increasing transparency, working toward meeting our racial equity goals, and increasing public engagement. And we've done just that over the last 4 years.
Yes. And your campaign, you ran on transparency. And I have to say, Devon, you're one of few politicians who actually did what he said he was going to do. You ran on transparency, and you have been all about the people and being transparent. And unfortunately, there are some people at the city that don't like that about you. And you've just been in constant fight with the city because you want the people of Evanston to know what's happening.
Yeah, there's been certainly some controversy this term, with my time in office, and we've been able to do a lot of great things. In this term, we were able to, do things like we doubled the number of public records disclosures, utilizing the Freedom of Information Act, so more information is out there. But while also doing that, our office was instrumental in rewriting the FOIA policy to ensure things like juvenile arrest records and other sensitive information aren't released to the public. I mean, we rewrote the policy and ensured that those records are embargoed, held on hold for a couple of days before made public, to ensure that everything's done right. We've led on issues of ensuring that with some of the data that we've put out, we made it known that 75% of all juvenile arrests in Evanston were of African American youth, while our city is only 18%. It's going down. 16, 18% Black. And so grossly overrepresented in the juvenile arrest, category. We were also, able to, put on a whole host of informational, what's commonly termed as popular pedagogy. and educate residents about issues from parliamentary procedures, so our council meetings are more efficient, to issues of FOIA, to issues of property abatement. We had the Cook County Recorder come out, Karen Yarbrough. We've done things on participatory budgeting and on voter initiatives. So we've had a whole host of engagements to just educate residents about a number of issues as well. So I'm really proud of the record, but there's been some controversy to your point there. And, I think when people look deeper, what you'll see is that, part of it is what's unfortunate is that newspapers have had to retract articles about me. The mayor has had to privately apologize about about statements publicly made by city staff, and powerful city officials and the state's attorney's office has had to investigate false claims about me lodged by powerful city staff members. We're not talking about front-end employees at the collector's office. We're talking about city attorneys and very powerful officials at the city who have lodged claims against me. The state's attorney's office has had to investigate and has determined the stuff unfounded. So there's certainly been some controversy, and there's certainly been a lot of pushback. But what I can say, and what I'm very proud of, is that with all of that controversy, I have never once given up on the mission that folks here in Evanston put me in office to accomplish. And I'm hoping that folks in Evanston won't give up on me. I've, certainly in my personal life, certainly made had some struggles, but there have been some missteps in, with a few items, while I've been in office with my personal life. But again, my public record is one that I'm unequivocally proud of, and that I'm happy to have held up to the light, and have people inspect, and happy to share with folks. And so proud to have done the work in the clerk's office, and really looking forward to continuing doing that work and pushing it even further in the aldermanic seat.
Devon, you have educated us, and I have to say again, I've said it to other candidates. You taught us about FOIA, because I don't think too many people understood the power of FOIA until you came in, and you made it a point that people understood that they can get records of what's actually happening with the city officials, what's going on with the economics of our city. We didn't know that we could get access, that we can request that information. And so you taught us all about that. And then that's when a lot of controversy started coming up with certain members of city council. And I truly believe that that's where the pushback started coming, because all of a sudden, when you were elected and you really started being about the transparency and teaching us these things and letting us know the power of the people, you started getting the pushback. Next thing I know, you didn't even have a staff anymore. Like, I walked into your office and it was literally just you in the middle of the room with your computer, and you could hear a pin drop. And I'm like, where's your staff? And you were like, they took my staff. I don't have a staff.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the record, I mean, there's it takes some work, and it's, that's one of the things that I like about campaigns is, again, you get to hold that record up to the light. And if, and I believe in Evanstonians, and I believe in eighth warders. And if you look at the record, you'll see that, on July 1st, or actually June 30th, the council attempted to hold a meeting to opt out of the minimum wage. What the day before was to take effect on July 1st of 2017. And I called that meeting. I called them out and worked with and helped residents connect with the Attorney General's office, and put out a statement, a memorandum saying that meeting could not happen and we could not opt out in that manner. And very soon after that, right after that meeting, 10 days later, you can look at the record, all the staff was yanked out of my office. And, so then, yeah. So then, it's a very clear pattern of things, and it's been a part of the controversy. And that's why, again, this campaign, we're resilient, I'm resilient. And that's why, continuing to run for aldermen, and looking to correct some of the wrongs that were done to the people's office, the clerk's office, hoping to work with the next clerk. We're excited to work with the next clerk and hoping to as aldermen, and you know, continue marching on.
Well, I've told you a million times, you have got some thick skin, man, because I don't know too many people that could take that amount of pressure and constant attack. I'm like, God, let the man just do his job. Like it was constant, constant. And I mean, it got to a point like you didn't even want me to run the stories anymore. You like, go do your thing. He was, you just knew it was going to be endless, and it was, and it still is, unfortunately today. So you're running for Eighth Ward alderman. Um, I mean, I've watched you up there on the dais, and you made sure that the council meetings were compliant. I mean, there were times you knew more than the city attorney in regards to how the meetings were supposed to run and when people should vote, when they shouldn't vote, how many people could vote, what helped the vote to pass. I mean, these were things you just knew off the top of your head, which the candidates that are running for city clerk now, I wonder, are they that deep into the office to know all the information that you were able to um, give to people at any given moment? And so now you're running for Eighth Ward alderman, and I just know that you are equipped for that position. And unfortunately, Alderman Ann Rainey, who you and I have both have said, you know, on some level, there's respect for Ann Rainey because by hook or crook, she get by hook or crook, she gets whatever she wants for her ward, whatever she wants for her ward. But on the other side to Ann Rainey is she does make comments that are very hurtful, oftentimes racial. She's been
No,
called to Board of Ethics, and for whatever reason, the Board of Ethics always lets her pass by, get
that's
by.
not true. Board of Ethics does not always let her pass by. In fact, the Board of Ethics has dinged Alderman Rainey. What's let Alderman Rainey pass by is Alderman Rainey voting on her own ethics case and having it dismissed
and
in the
how
deciding vote.
and
So
how does that even happen? It's like no matter what, she gets by, she gets by. And so as of recent, she referred to you as angry. Uh,
it's scary.
please make sure that you are muted, please, so that we can hear the candidate here. Okay, yeah, she referred to you as scary. To me, it's all the same. Being called when they call Black women angry,
Yeah, yeah.
Black men scary. We know what that's code for. Um, can you explain what happened there for those who have been living under a rock and don't know what happened there?
Yeah, so we had a very spirited Eighth Ward forum hosted by the League of Women Voters Evanston, and I actually encourage folks to watch that forum because it's an hour and 11-minute recording, and it's a very, except for the last few minutes, it's a very informative discussion. So I'd encourage folks to watch that and hear from all of the candidates. But toward the tail end, Alderman Rainey, chose to turn, toward attacking myself and the other candidate who was on the ballot, and made and she made a claim about me saying that I'm a very scary person. And as you said, that to me is can trigger racist tropes of Black men being scary criminal figures, and I don't think that language, certainly doesn't belong in our political discourse. And I think it was just completely unfounded. And I was, visibly taken aback in the moment. But I also very quickly realized that, well, it's Ann Rainey. This is what Ann Rainey says. But I will say that I looked at the next day, I read an article by the Daily Northwestern where Alderman Rainey tried to explain her comments. And in her explanation, She said that, um, part of it, she said that, I am, I'm trying to, quote her correctly, but she said in reference to the, I bring up the fact that my parents were incarcerated. It's a part of my story. Both of my parents were in prison, at a point during my childhood. And, it informs the way that I approach policy, the way I view social issues. It certainly informs my empathy for people in my community who have had similar situations. Too many people in my community, young folks who were raised by grandparents because their parents went to prison, young folks who had brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and grandparents in prison. And so it's an experience that many folks in our community have, especially in the Black and Brown community, where we know that folks are over policed. And so it's a story that I share um, to let people know. One, I'll interject into this story really quick to go one deeper. Is during voting, I met a mother who's volunteering for my campaign, who told me that a story about her son. She has a son who's in college, and he's studying sports management. He was a great athlete, and he decided that he wanted to, take his talents elsewhere and become a sports manager. And she told me that she went to prison. And there's a part of her son's life and her children's lives that she wasn't around for because she was in prison. And she told me that by hearing my story, it made her feel as though she understood that her sins, that her mistakes didn't have to be cast upon her son and her children. And that, they could go off and become, elected the city clerk of a town like Evanston. That they could go off and be a sports manager. They can go off and do the things that they want. But we know all too often in the real world that the sins of our parents, the mistakes of our parents are cast upon us. And we know that, so I share that story to let folks know, that there is, hope, and that, also to let them know this is how I view issues. And it's no different than other candidates sharing their stories about their wives or their husbands and their kids who go to, whatever elementary school, because that also is important to share those stories because it informs the way they approach issues. And we need on our council a balance. And so, those statements, the statements from Alderman Rainey, where she said, that in reference to me telling that story, that I just mention it every time I speak, and that enough already. That's what she said, enough already, and that was hurtful to me. I know it's hurtful to folks in our community, and I think it's informative of the way that Alderman Rainey views those kinds of stories and those kinds of experience. And it's a shame, especially with someone who is sitting on the reparations subcommittee. If you think enough already for me, someone who directly experienced that, it's hard for me to believe that you have the empathy and the ability to view this through a lens that is necessary to understand historical and generational harm. And so, yeah. So it was embarrassing, hurtful comments that Alderman Rainey shared.
Well, I will tell you, speaking for me, and I know a lot of people agree with me, I appreciate those stories that you tell because that's the whole part of being transparent. You're letting people know this is what I'm made of and this is where I'm going. And I appreciate that story because it lets me know that you are real. You have been through some shit. You have been through some stuff and you came out. And so that's someone that you want to lead a community, lead a ward, lead a city, is someone who has thick skin, who has been through some things, resilient. You've learned from, like you said, you've made some missteps here and there, and you've learned from it, and you kept going. But overall, Devon, is that you have educated the community so much to the point that the city wanted to hold you down. So keep telling your story. To me, keep telling your story to the people. I think it's important, and especially to young people, letting them know, yes, what happened with your parents As long as you have your vision, you carry that with you and you use it and you keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So I thank you for sharing that. I don't know what Ann Rainey's on, but yes, I am concerned. I am concerned that she has had a huge part in reparations, and people have been concerned about it for quite a while. But again, no one has been listening to the community in regards to reparations. Now, initially, Alderman Robin Rue Simmons, I mean, all respect to her for getting that 10 million, getting that commitment, and making reparations a real conversation. And you played a huge part in helping her to get it going, providing information, data, all that she needed to get it off the ground. So thank you.
The clerk's office authored the case for reparations memorandum. It was the first official city document and official city memorandum making a case for local reparations, and we focused in particularly on our city's discriminatory and exclusionary history of implementing zoning laws that were meant to keep Black and brown folks, particularly Black folks, in a certain part of town, and wealthier, more white folks in another part of town.
Please stay muted. Okay, got it. So initially, Alderman Rue Simmons, initially she had wanted people to get a payment. I mean, she had some great ideas going, and then all of a sudden, the vision changed as more and more people started having influence on the committee. And Ann Rainey is one of those people. Now, I will say, Ann Rainey, with the idea of using cannabis tax dollars, that was brilliant. That was great. But then she stayed in the mix still. And then next thing you know, she's determining how much money we get. Oh, well, 10,000 is enough. Let them have 25,000. And then I think that's when people started saying, wait, hold up. Why is Ann Rainey determining what the Black community gets for reparations? And then all of a sudden it became all about being qualified. Well, only a few of them can get it in Evanston, this first 400,000. Only a few families. We're not going to service all of them, just a few, you know. And all of a sudden it wasn't reparations anymore. It was a housing program, and Ann Rainey was going to set up meetings at banks, and so now it's like, okay, well, yeah, the banks are going to win. They're going to come out pretty good. But majority of the Black families, it's still a big question mark. So a lot of people are concerned that she's had way too much say. I mean, there's a lot of people on the committee, but she's had a lot of influence, and we know who she is. So her having that much influence on reparations it's something to be concerned about.
Yeah, and I think it's really about process. One of the things I really focus on is systemic change, and by focusing on systemic change, it allows us to create processes that work well no matter who's in the seat. And so for example, in the clerk's office, one of the things that we've done is with all of the annually, folks who are on committees and boards and commissions have to file a financial disclosure and affiliation statement. And what we have done is we have added a question to that statement that asks folks about their ethnicity and their race. And this is the first time we've done this in the city. And what we are able to now do is have quantifiable data on what is the racial composition of our boards, committees, and commissions. And that allows us, we know that most policy, that almost all policy at some way, at some point snakes its way through the boards, the committees, and the commissions. And so by making sure that those boards, committees, and commissions are diverse, and we use an equity lens there, because what we discovered is that, in fact, that the racial composition of the board, the BCCs, reflects the racial composition of Evanston for the most part. But what we know is that when you build in an equity lens, you want over representation of of communities that have been historically, left out and marginalized. And so um, I think what we can do is we can make sure that those committees are more diverse. And I say this to say that, when it comes to issues like reparations or any other issue, for example, if the mayor or the governor came to me and said, "Hey, Devon, I would like you to serve on a committee that focuses on women's reproductive rights." Well, I would say I'm honored that you asked me and that you believe that I have the acumen to be able to be a part of that discussion. But because I'm someone who understands equity and believes in equity, I think that that role would be better served by someone who actually has ovaries and someone who, has to deal with reproductive issues. And if there's still a place for me on the committee, then I'll do it. But certainly I should be first on that committee, and certainly I shouldn't be leading it, one of the leaders in it. I think that's true. A number of my opponents have to understand that. Alderman Rainey, I think, with reparations, needs to take a back seat. And some of my other opponents have been involved in committees that deal with policing, and you're a white man leading an issue that primarily impacts Black and brown folks, particularly younger ones. And so I think it's important that we put people in the right spots, and ensure that we're using equity when we're doing that. I think Anne Rainey should have ensured that someone else was leading on in that role.
Yes, yes. Um, I I can talk to ask Devon a million questions, but I definitely want to open it up to the residents to ask questions. So anyone here on the Zoom, I know we're Facebook Live, but I'll take questions from those in the Zoom room right now. If you have any questions, use the raise your hand symbol. If you can't find it, just let me know in the chat that you have a question, and I'll call on you, and you'll unmute and ask Clerk Reid a question. Okay. So I agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. Everything that you just said. I just wish others did. I have gone to several reparation meetings, and I have heard people say Alderman Rainey has too much say, but no one was listening. No one was listening to the community. They've been saying it, and now people are not very happy with how the reparations is looking to roll out. I mean, it hasn't been set in stone yet, but it's been going in that direction for quite some time now. And again, no one wanted to listen to the community.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are in
Well,
need of a council that, like,
well,
hello, listen to us.
yeah, I think that's important. And listening to the community. One of the things that I have pushed for in the past is participatory budgeting. I've pushed forward particularly around affordable housing as city clerk. And as alderman, I will continue that push for participatory budgeting with affordable housing and community safety dollars, especially as we're having a discussion about reallocating resources away from the police department. I think it's really important that or it would be really, I think, a smart step for us to maybe put some of those funds into a participatory budgeting fund. And what we've seen with that is it allows folks to use our collective genius to solve some of our toughest issues, and it also gives residents real direct power in how their tax dollars are spent. And it's a great tool for education as well, because a part of the PB process is you have to educate residents on how the funds are traditionally spent, because you want to create a specialized fund for those dollars, and segment how they can be used. And in fact, because of issues like PB, I've actually built a relationship with our aldermen bordering the south of the 8th Ward on Howard Street, which is the 49th Ward of Chicago. I was, a new alderman, Joe Moore, before he was replaced by Alderman Marie Hadden. And I've met with both of them. I have a good, or especially Marie, we have a very good relationship with Marie Hadden, and I've built that through PB. But to the point here is that giving residents direct control can really increase civic engagement in a meaningful way and really help us solve some tough issues. And, as alderman, that's something I plan to do. If there are any questions, I'll be ready for them, or if not, I have.
We have Michelle has a question here. Michelle?
Thank you. I hope this is okay to ask, but
Anything is okay to ask.
okay. When I was contacted by one of your opponents and I asked them, well, why should I vote for you instead of Devon Reid? That person said to me, and it wasn't Ann, but that person said to me that there had been some personnel issues involving creation of a hostile work environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, can you address that at all? I mean, that doesn't seem consistent with the way you're behaving. But I'd like to ask you about it just because human beings mess up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that's, again, what I love about campaigns, that we have this opportunity to have a dialogue and folks can kick the tires. And, it's unfortunate that my opponents are, relying on, again, some of those same racist tropes and cheap political points to try to attack, my credibility. And so there were a number, I talked about this a bit up front. There were a number of complaints that were lodged against me by very powerful city employees. This was the corporation counsel for the city, two members of the law department, and the deputy city clerk. And again, if you look at the timeline, this stuff happened right after I filed a lawsuit for transparency. And so, in my estimation, the motivation is that I was a whistleblower, and I called out the city for not following the FOIA statute. And again, if you look into the documents that have been leaked to the public, the accusations there are that I created a hostile work environment relating to my advocacy for FOIA. And what we know is, if you look at, again, this is captured in emails, all of this stuff is public record that oddly enough can be FOIA'd. And what you see there is that I advocated for a number of things. And with those particular items, the Attorney General's office has made determinations. I filed a lawsuit. The city changed the law and named additional FOIA officers, which made the lawsuit moot. And so it couldn't move forward. But in separate channels, residents brought these issues to the Attorney General's office. And each one of the issues that I was advocating for, the Attorney General's office has determined, hey, City of Evanston, you were violating the FOIA statute by not complying with essentially what the clerk was, asking you to do. And so, and even now today, there's a lawsuit that is pending before the city relating to the city's refusal to release financial documents, particularly donations relating to the Robert Crown facility. And, so we have that, and then you have the actual accusations. And, some of those were very serious accusations. I took it was a very stressful period in my life. Malika interviewed me there. It was not a great period, because there were some very serious accusations against me. Including felony accusations, right? Felony eavesdropping was one of the accusations that was made. Union retaliation was another accusation made. These were serious accusations by powerful city employees from the law department, right? And folks who know the law. And the state's attorney's office investigated these very serious accusations and determined it was so unfounded that they couldn't even move forward. It didn't even meet the low bar to bring it to court to have further investigation. And so, I'm very proud of my record, and in the clerk's office. And it's really unfortunate that my opponent, it wasn't Rainey's campaign. I know it was Matt Mitchell's campaign, because they've been trying to capitalize on this stuff, and it's been when independent offices have looked at it, it's been disproven.
Thank you for that question, Michelle. Yes, I do remember interviewing you during that time, and I think like almost every day it was a new accusation you were being hit with, like from all directions. And I just didn't understand how you were even able to just come into work every day, but you kept to your commitment to the people, no matter what happened. Um, and also, I find interesting is when they pretty much took FOIA away from you, even though you were pretty much Mr. FOIA, who educated the entire city about it, their rights to it. Um, so they named all these different FOIA officers. So FOIA
Under the guise of efficiency.
under the guise of efficiency, and you were pretty much handling it by yourself. That volume that was coming in,
The office, yeah, the office in our entirety handled it, yeah.
we're handling it. So then they named all these different FOIA officers, and then so the FOIA requests weren't even going out in a
What we
timely.
saw was that the response time for FOIA requests went from an average of 11 days. The statute allows 10 days. And, there's some requests that the statute allows for a 21-day response period. But so our average when I was when the clerk's office was in charge of FOIA was 11 days. I still wanted that lower, but that's where it was. And after the clerk's office, when these additional FOIA officers were named for efficiency, we know that the FOIA response time has increased to 16, 17 days on average. And so, and this is important. Some folks may think, well, oh, that's just a few days. That's not a big deal. But when it already takes, the city already has a 2-week period, because these are business days, to respond to a FOIA in the first place. And when you're trying to FOIA information that's maybe coming up for a council meeting, and you really need information to inform the community and the council about something they may not know, it is imperative that we get that information to you as soon as possible. And so, that's why, even a few days can make a huge difference in the direction of policy. And so that's why it's important we get records to folks as fast as possible.
And then now the city is being sued by Claire Kelly, who's running for
And Mary Rosinski, yeah.
Rosinski. So what's the deal with that? Because there weren't lawsuits when it was in your hands. Now there's lawsuits. So what exactly happened with that situation?
Well, but here's one thing. So yeah, there weren't lawsuits when FOIA was in the clerk's office, because folks had a clerk that they believed was fighting on their behalf. And in fact, I filed a lawsuit on behalf of residents. So there were lawsuits when it was in my hand. But the folks had someone in the clerk's office who they knew that if the city was, improperly withholding records, they had someone there advocating for them. And now with the new system, folks don't have that same. I think that folks don't have that same trust, particularly Claire and Mary. I do know Claire and Mary. And so now originally I would advise folks to go to the Attorney General's office. I'd help folks craft letters to the Attorney General's office. I'd make sure folks knew what they had to do to get the AG to respond. And so folks felt that was good. Now the Attorney General's office actually opined on Mary Rosinski and Claire Kelly's case. They gave determinations and said, the city needs to turn over the records that they were requesting. Even after the Attorney General's office said, you need to turn this over, the city still did not. And both Mary and Claire asked for months, after the AG gave this opinion, and the city still refused. And so they just felt that there's no other option. And this is only a lawsuit that's been made public. There are other lawsuits that I know about that haven't been written about in the newspaper in the last few months. Where someone filed a lawsuit, and then very quickly, when the lawsuit was filed, the city turned over the records, even though they had withheld the records for quite a period before then. And it's just not fair that residents should have to hire attorneys to get records that they have a right to. And that's why, as clerk, I advocated so hard, and that's why, as alderman, I'll make sure that we put that responsibility back in an office that is accountable directly to the public.
Mm, mm. That's disturbing, Devon. That is disturbing. Absolutely. So whoever follows you to take your position as city clerk, oh, they got some shoes to fill. Goodness gracious. You did so much. You did so much for this city, and I don't even think people realize what all you were going through on behalf of the people.
Yeah. Well, I have a shoehorn or one of those things with shoe wideness, so I'll make sure I hand it off to the next clerk. And the way that we'll do that is doing something that I did not have the privilege of having, which is making sure that there's a strong transition. I think that there, especially in an executive office, we need to ensure that every clerk has the resources that they need to come into office strong. And so, I'd say, if you look at the previous clerks, going back historically, I certainly had some big shoes to fill as well. Just holding the office in and of itself is filling big shoes. It's a very important office, and for important functions happen here. And so, we have to make sure that we're, again, passing that, what we need to make sure that we can fill those shoes.
So, Devon, I know you have a great, strong relationships with the community itself. And of course, there are some individuals at the city, not everyone, but some individuals at the city definitely gave you a hard time because of your fight for the people, making sure that people got the information that they had the right to have. Um, so if you're elected alderman of the 8th Ward, you'll have to, deal with Erica Storley. I know you and Wally's relationship was very strained. And I think Wally set in motion a lot of what had happened to you before he left. So how will you handle your relationship with Erica Storley as alderman?
I've even said this. I'm someone who I believe I always speak truth to power, and even to an elected official, the most powerful group that you have is your residents. And when I spoke at Community Alliance for Better Government, who was opposed to the selection of Erica Storley, one of the things that I said there, and I'll say it here again, is that when we went through that selection process, one of the things that we should have been proud of is that we had three women who are our finalists. And Erica Storley is a woman who has spent a lot of time, has a long tenure with the city, and I think is someone who has has a good heart. Now, when you look at the totality of the folks who applied, was Miss Storley the most qualified person to apply for the position? I don't know, and so there's that. I don't think so, but that has raised some tension there. I personally don't have, I don't think I have a bad relationship with Miss Storley. And I think as alderman, Miss Storley is there to, work at the direction of the mayor and the collective direction of the council, the collective direction of the mayor and the council. And so, we'll have a slightly different relationship than we do now. And I look forward to working with Miss Storley or whoever the next city manager is, and I plan to make sure that the relationship. I think that the culture starts at the top, and I want to ensure that we are demonstrating a way that you can have respectful disagreements, and work just, even with those disagreements, have a common understanding that, we're here to do the best that we can for our community. And also realizing, that we're, that the aldermen were put in place by the public to enact the public's will. And Ms. Storley is there to, enact that will using her professional training and experience as a city manager. So.
what will be the first conversation you have with her in regards to the city budget, the debt that we're in? Um, Affordable housing is definitely a hot topic that is going on. I mean, COVID-19, it's looking like a new strand is coming about that's going to have us still in quarantine into the summer. Um, so what's going to be your first meeting with her in regards to budget and handling all of this?
Yeah, the first meeting with Miss Storley, I really think will focus on uh, understanding our, where what our shared values are, and getting a good. I think I have a good sense of that. I've worked, alongside Miss Storley for the last 4 years, but getting that in a new role, that understanding in a new role, I think will be important. Because at the end of the day, who I really have to convince are my, at least four other of my colleagues to vote for something, and it's Miss Storley's job to enact the will of the people, the vote of the council. And so, I will understand what our common interests are and our common goals, and to make sure that on those issues I can work with Ms. Storley and make sure that she's a partner on those issues, and understand where we maybe have differences and where I maybe need to go to someone else to push that agenda forward. And so, that'll be my first meeting, just having getting a kind of a reset, a hard reset, and getting a deeper understanding of each other.
How do you intend to handle this second, well, not second wave, but I guess it'd be the first wave of the new strand of COVID that has hit, um, and they're projecting that it's going to be worse um, going into the summer. So businesses will possibly have to shut down again. Schools, I can't even keep up if schools are in or out anymore. I've
Yeah,
lost
you
track.
got what's going on in Chicago, and then you got Evanston. You got
Yes.
Yeah. So with the new strain, I think it's what we needed to do with the first strain, which is make sure that we're putting policies in place that protect our most vulnerable residents, or folks who are currently struggling. And what that means in reality is leveling the. So first, eh, the difference between the first strain and the second go around is that we have a vaccine that's working its way through, and we're vaccinating people. So we need to make sure we know we're following that. Pfizer and Moderna is able to produce, I think, 50 million more of their vaccine, doses of their vaccine. Um, and so that'll be a help. And we just have to make sure that our local health department. We're fortunate. Evanston is one of, I believe, 4 or 5 communities in the state of Illinois that has their own health department. And I think we need to make sure we're fully taking advantage of that, and we have been in many ways thus far, and ensuring that we're connecting with all of the various distributors of the vaccine to ensure that it's getting out effectively. But separately, and that's a role of city staff, right? That's we need to make sure we're providing the health department with the right resources. But as an alderman, what I think our role is one, to be educators, especially when we're talking about the Black and Brown community that we know has rightfully has skepticism about vaccines and other medical procedures. We know the history, and it's a rightful fear. I think it's but what we have to do is show folks the data now. I'm always tend to go back to data, and we know that the data says that folks are not having, there isn't widespread, mortality or, other issues related to, receiving the vaccine. So it's safe. And we need to make sure folks know that it's safe. And I think it's important that aldermen, let folks in their communities know that. We lead by example. And, in another sense, I think it's very important that we level the playing field for businesses, our small businesses. What we see here is we shut down the non-essential businesses, right? When we get the The governor gives his order, and some of those may be like a gift shop that gets closed down, or a bakery or other non-essential places that get shut down, while the big box stores like Target, and we don't have a Walmart, but Target, Walmart, Jewel, these other big box retailers, they get to stay open. And guess what? They sell, because they're a large retailer, they sell those non-essential items in their store. A Target is a gift shop and a flower store and all these different little boutique stores in one. And so we have to make sure that the larger businesses are playing by the same rules as our small, more specialized businesses. So we're not creating a disadvantage for those businesses. And as Alderman, I will do that. And I think we also have to ensure that we're just preparing folks for the new economy, which is, I think universal internet access is key to helping our business owners unleash, their full economic potential in the modern world. And I think if we get to the heart of, there's all kinds of studies in economics about how you increase, your productivity, and by switching from the last century's modes of communication, energy, and transportation to the new age of those, three, industries, we can, really help increase productivity of our businesses. And so that's the plan.
Okay. Yeah, those are things that are on people's minds right now as we listen to the news every day. The COVID just doesn't seem to be going away, though we're happy about the vaccine. But like you said, some people are still not trusting of it. But I have heard of them in some communities actually going out to those communities that aren't very trusting and getting out there and educating them and actually giving them the vaccine, signing them up for the vaccine, taking the vaccine to the community to make sure that they get the vaccine, because all these boxes, you got to check, and then you're last on the list to even get it. So that already raises some what's going on here? So why are we being left out?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even get there yet, because we've only done our essential workers. I mean, not even our essential workers. We've done our our healthcare professionals thus far, and right now, as far as the general public, I think as of yesterday, we're still at 77-year-olds, and so we're still trickling down to getting it out to the wider public, and I think that's an issue. One last thing I really did want to mention is that we have to do for the next round of the pandemic is make sure that we're taking care of our essential workers. That's both city staff who are essential workers, our firefighters, our police officers, the folks who have to go out. But when I think about essential workers, I just don't think about those folks. I think about the grocery store clerk at Trader Joe's that I go to, or at Jewel, or at at all these other places. And why on God's earth has Evanston not put forward, in this progressive town, why have we not put forward a bill to protect our essential workers? Seattle has put forward a bill that requires big box retailers, right? We're not talking about, small mom and pop. So in my ward, it's not going to hit Sweet Temptations Bakery or Good to Go Jamaican restaurant or any of those smaller places, but it is going to hit Jewel, Target, Best Buy, these larger institutions, even, larger banks, where they should be, and the city ourselves, right? This is about the city too. We should be paying our essential workers an essential worker bonus. And I think the city should require, similar to Seattle, that all big box retailers pay at least $4 an hour bonus for any essential worker. And I think that'll be, we know that these companies, I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot. Just look at the stock market, look at the wealth of these CEOs of these large companies, and they are making great money through this pandemic, and they are not sharing it with their employees. And in Evanston, we should not allow these large corporations to come in and take advantage of our people who are working at their stores and take advantage of our dollars in that way. And so we should be protecting those essential workers who are protecting us and making sure that that our families are able to survive through this pandemic.
Yes. See, I love that conversation, looking out for those, because when people think first responders, they're just thinking of the healthcare workers, the firemen, the police, but actually the people who are really out there every day, 8 hours a day. Yes, we go to Trader Joe's. They are in contact with so many people throughout the day. Yes, they should have access. Most definitely, they should be at the top of the list. And the people that clean the hospital rooms,
Mhm.
you know, they definitely should be at the top of the list. Not just the
And and,
doctors and the
and
nurses.
speaking of this too, a lot of folks, it's so easy when we talk about, you talked about the finances a second ago in the conversation with Erica Storley. It is so easy for folks to just say we need to go after Northwestern. Well, we need to go after Northwestern, yes, but we have to realize that our hospitals are not, St. Francis North Evanston Hospital, great institutions. They're doing great things for on the cutting edge of medicine, great places. But they're also large corporations where folks are making millions and millions and millions of dollars off of, to be honest, sometimes not providing the best healthcare to folks, right? There's part of the profit margin. We know the problems with our healthcare system, and that their profit is built into, caring for sick people, which it shouldn't be. And so when we think about these hospitals, they're termed as nonprofit. I think we need to also make sure that these large institutions are paying their fair share too. Um, you know, and I think, yes, Northwestern needs to pay more, but I think also St. Francis and Evanston Hospital need to be chipping in a bit more to our community too, given the wealth. And I think that also applies to all of the other big box retailers who are operating here. We need to make sure everybody's paying their fair share, including Northwestern, including the hospital, including the Best Buys and the Targets and other large developers.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Devon. I could ask a million more questions,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we've already gone over. We're supposed to be 45 minutes, and we've been like just a little over an hour now.
Okay.
But thank you so much. I wanted the people to hear your voice, because I mean, you're still under attack, and here you are still just fighting for the people and determined to get in this position where you can actually do more for the community.
And I got to mention one thing. I haven't mentioned this much during the campaign, but I just as a testament to how dedicated I am to this work. It is very public. What my as clerk, I'm giving up a very comfortable job and a very comfortable salary to run for a new position that that is not a very comfortable job, does not have a comfortable salary, because I care so deeply about the issues. And I think it's important to see what, look at folks' records. What have they done? Not just when they want to run for office and they want your vote. What have they done long before people were paying attention, long before people were looking? And what do they do behind closed doors? And what I have done is time and time again demonstrate that I have a true, genuine commitment to serving the people of Evanston, to ensuring that the city is operating with a true equity lens, and ensuring that folks are more engaged in the day-to-day operations of our city. And so, I think that when folks look at this race, there are two folks who are experienced. Alderman Rainey has a ton of experience, 30 years, 34 years of experience. I'm happy at later points, at later debates, to talk about, where I see how that experience has served us. And I'm sure she has some ways that my experience is she has her own opinions about my experience. But there are two folks in this race that represent experience on the ballot. And then there are folks who represent change on the ballot and not on the ballot. Ms. Carrillo not on the ballot. But there's only one person who represents both the experience, the professional experience, the lived experience, and represents change on the ballot, and that's myself. And that's why I'm running, to bring both that experience and a new vision for our community to the 8th Ward and to the city of Evanston as a whole. And I'm looking forward to having the vote of folks who want to continue that mission on February 23rd. And please go out and early vote. Our early vote numbers have been terribly low. We've only had 100 and some odd people early vote over the last 3 days, over the first 3 days. So please start getting out to early vote, the mail-in ballots haven't come out yet, but when you receive them, turn them in as quickly as possible. And I thank you for having me here. And visit reidfor8.com to learn more. REIDFOR, the number 8.com. And I appreciate being here.
Thank you. Thank you. And give them where they can contact you again for more questions, Devon.
Yeah, I am someone who likes to give out my cell phone number directly, 872-203-4291. You can give me a call directly, or you can email reidfor8 REIDFOR, the number 8 @gmail.com.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Clerk Reid. Thank you. Thank you. And you know the door is always open to you here at Evanston Live TV. If there's any more messaging you want to get out, especially with the voting, that's good to know that the voting turnout, early voting turnout, has been low. So we need to do more to get more people out. But thank you. Thank you for all your service, for everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this has been Malika, Evanston Live TV. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. You all please be sure to stay engaged, stay engaged. As you can hear, a lot of decisions get made, and you'll find yourself one day walking out the door and like, wait, what happened to this? Where did this go? It's because the decision was made and you weren't aware, you didn't stay engaged and informed to know. So please, please talk to these candidates, attend as many forums as you possibly can on Zoom. We, unfortunately, because of COVID, we can't all be together during election at different locations, Family Focus or the Rotary, where we can all get together and meet these candidates. So we have to do it via Zoom and attend as many of these forums as you possibly can virtually and learn their platforms. Absolutely learn their platforms and stay abreast of what's happening. We have our next forum here on Evanston Live TV is February 16th, and it's actually for the city clerk position. So we'll have all of the candidates running for city clerk right here on Evanston Live TV. That's 7 p.m. February 16th. So you all stay tuned. And we have more individual interviews coming up as well with candidates. And you can go back and look at all the interviews and forums that I've done so far. You can find them on YouTube, on Facebook, of course, and some you can find on Instagram. They kind of cut you off with a time limit, but you can catch some things on Instagram as well. So stay engaged, stay informed, and be safe out there. Thank you all so much. Evanston Live TV.